live on YouTube, but I need to change some settings. You are here.
Good afternoon. My name is Gary Darnielle. I'm the Salem hearings official. For the record, it's 5:30 p.m. on Wednesday, June 12, 2024. This afternoon, we have one item on our docket. This hearing concerns the consolidated application for a conditional use permit in Class 3 site plan review for the operation of an adult daycare center at 870 Albina Street Northeast in Salem. The applicant is Natalie Matakov, is that correct? And this is case number CU-SPR 24-03. The approval criteria in this matter can be found in Salem Revised Code sections 240.005 sub D sub 1 through 3. Salem Revised Code sections 220.05 sub F, sub 3, sub A, sub C and D. Salem Revised Code section 511.05 sub A, Salem Revised Code section 511.010 sub B, D, and sub E, and the general development standards of the Salem Revised Code section 800. First, are there any objections to the jurisdiction of the hearings official? I'm going to take an opportunity to explain the procedures and legalities that are associated with this hearing. And after I'm done, those of you who are still awake will have an opportunity to testify. So these hearings are characterized as being quasi-judicial and de novo. By quasi-judicial, that means there are certain due process rights and rules that apply to the hearing. You have the right to notice, you have the right to testify, you have the right to an impartial decision maker, a decision maker who has to issue a written decision that addresses findings of fact and conclusions of law. De novo means that any new evidence that's relevant to the approval criteria can be entered into the record. The evidentiary rules that you see in circuit court proceedings don't apply here. We're a lot more flexible. Evidence that is admissible is that which can be relied upon by a reasonably prudent person conducting their serious daily affairs. I will exclude evidence that's not relevant or material or unduly repetitious. It's important to note that you need to raise procedural and substantive issues at this hearing, or if my decision is appealed to the planning commission at their hearing, so that you'll be able to raise those issues on appeal to the Oregon Land Use Board. That's only to say, if you have something important to say that's relevant, you need to get it into the record either before me or if there's an appeal before the planning commission. The burden of proof on each fact or position is upon that party asserting that or position. The ultimate burden is on the applicant to show by a preponderance of the evidence that all applicable approval criteria have been satisfied. That's all of them. The record in this matter consists of the materials submitted by the applicant, the application and supporting materials, staff reports. There's 2 staff reports. Supplemental staff report came out recently, and any testimony or material that is already in the record that has been submitted by email or that you will be providing this afternoon. By statute, you have the right to request that the record be held open an additional 7 days. And my understanding is we've already got at least 1 or 2 requests to keep the record open. And what we usually do in that case is that we might hold the record open for a week for anybody who wants to submit new evidence to do so. Another week for rebuttal by anybody to the new material that has been submitted into the record. And finally, if the applicant chooses to do so, to take a week to provide summary rebuttal. Now, we're not fixed on those timelines. We'll discuss those at the end of the hearing. We'll determine whether that's adequate time for everybody. But that's generally the procedure you follow. You also have a right to request a continuance of the hearing. That means another hearing. That decision is discretionary with the hearings official. You need to show that merely holding the record open for a specific period of time isn't adequate to address whatever procedural or substantive issues that you have to raise. This hearing is recorded, so I ask those who testify and will be using that microphone, first identify yourself at the podium. That's in case we have to do a transcript of the hearing. Second, after you state your name, you might want to identify whether you're in favor of or against. You don't have to. You can probably tell from the testimony. And if you haven't submitted written testimony, email testimony, and you haven't signed the sign-up sheet, you won't receive a copy of my decision. So if you want a copy of my decision, make sure your name and address or email address is on the sign-up sheet. When we get to the public testimony portion of the hearing, staff will read off the list of individuals who put down the names, and I guess with one exception, we'll just follow that route. In terms of the procedures of the hearing itself, we'll begin with a staff presentation. This afternoon, we have Mr. Jacob Brown, who's a planner with the Salem Planning Department, who will present the staff report. Following that testimony will be from the applicant. Normally, the applicant is accorded 15 minutes to testify. That's not enough. Please tell me what you need in time. Following that, I'll ask if there's any testimony from the neighborhood organization. They're usually afforded about 10 minutes if they choose to testify. And then we'll open it up to everyone else to testify. Again, following the procedure, the sign-up sheet. After all the testimony is in, I'll turn to staff and see if they want to address any issues or questions that might have been raised. And then there'll be an opportunity for the applicant to do a rebuttal, a summary. And after that, we talk a little bit about the appeal. Those of you who have standing, and anybody who testified either in writing or in person as standing, can appeal my decision to the Salem Planning Commission. And you have 15 days from the date a notice of my written decision is made. That appeal is de novo. As I explained, that means you can add new evidence into the record before the Planning Commission. After the Planning Commission issues their decision, it's my understanding their decision can be appealed to the Oregon Land Use Board of Appeals. LUBA, as it's more commonly called. The Salem Revised Code, as I explained, requires the decision maker to be impartial. And that means disclosing any ex-parte contacts or conflicts of interest. An ex-parte contact is a communication between the decision maker and with a party or potential party in the matter that includes a discussion of substantive issues and that occurs outside this venue. And if that happens, I need to disclose that contact to you and determine whether or not it has prejudiced me. A conflict of interest has to do with whether or not my decision will have a positive monetary or negative monetary decision on me, a member of my family, or any business that I'm associated with. So let me take this opportunity to indicate that I've had no ex-parte contacts. In fact, I just found out I'm a hearings officer who was here last yesterday. And I have no conflicts of interest. At this time, please take the opportunity to challenge my impartiality and choose to do so. And you retain the right to challenge my impartiality at any stage of the proceedings. Hearing no challenges, I would ask staff to begin their presentation.
Good evening, my name is Jacob Brown. I'm over at the City of San Antonio Division. I'm here to present the conditional use in Class 3 site plan review case.
Can everybody hear Mr. Brown? Would you talk a little closer to the microphone, please? Is it up?
Is this share screen working? Brian?
Yeah, it switched to the thing, but you're good now.
There we go. I'll start over again. Good evening, my name is Jacob Brown. I'm planner 1 with the City Sale Planning Division. I'm here to present the conditional use of the Class 3 site plan review case CU SPR-24-03, located at 870 Alvina Street Southeast. At this time, I would like to enter this presentation, staff report, the supplemental staff report, and all public comments that have been received at this time.
Accepted.
The applicant, Natalie Rudloff, has requested a conditional use permit in Class 3 site plan review to establish an adult daycare center within a single family residential zone, also known as RS. The conditional use permit is required due to the proposed use exceeding five or fewer adults, and the operator and owner is not living within the home. If it was within those criteria, it would fall under an adult daycare home, which is a outright permitted use of it. So a Class 3 site plan review is required to establish the use. There is no proposed, however, there's no proposed development on the property beyond the conditioned bicycle parking. The subject property is located within the southeast portion of Salem. It is currently developed with a 1,714 square foot residence. It is abutted by designated local streets, Alvina Street, southeast. And to the east, there is Sunnyside Road, a minor arterial, and Baxter Road, northeast, a collector, or Baxter Road, southeast, a collector street. Here's a closer overall view of the site. Here you can see closer up is the two local streets, Alvina Street, southeast, and Normal Ave, southeast. As discussed, the zoning of the property is single-family residential with the single area comprehensive plan designation being single-family residential. The adjoining properties are also zoned single-family residential. Show so. For context of the site, the existing residence is located on an interior lot with an approximate size of 8,276 square feet, 0.19 acres. The existing residence is an estimated 1,714 square feet and is a single story. The driveway serving the property connects onto Alvina Street southeast and leads to an attached two-car garage. As proposed, as proposed by the applicant, the entirety of the existing residence will be used for an adult daycare center with no exterior modifications or additions proposed, besides the installation of required bicycle parking. As a state licensed facility, the applicant has indicated that they shall operate as an adult daycare center, serving a maximum of 18 individuals with 2 to 3 employees on site. As noted by the applicant, the center will operate for 5 hours a day with arranged drop-off and pick-up for clients. They are proposing to provide 2 off-street vehicle parking spaces within the existing driveway and garage for the employees. Site plan review process is intended for any new development and then it was ensured to comply with the development standards of the development code. The site plan review is established, this site plan review is to establish the adult daycare use within the existing building. The property as currently existing, the property complies with all development standards of the RS zone. And with the recommended condition for the development to comply with the minimum required bicycle parking amounts and design standards. As discussed within the staff report and supplemental staff report, the use of meets the approval criteria for a conditional use permit. The use is a conditional use within the RS zone. The reasonable likely adverse impacts of the adult daycare center on the surrounding properties and areas will be minimized through the proposed conditions. The proposed adult daycare center will operate during weekdays for 5 hours a day, serving a maximum of 18 adults with 2 to 3 employees on site. The applicant indicates that customers will be dropped off at the facility around off-peak hours, which is approximately 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. and 1 p.m. with employees parking in the driveway or along the street as well. For residents within the area during the hours of operation, noise from the use is limited to a maximum of 60 decibels as required for any commercial use within in proximity to a sensitive area, which includes this residential neighborhood. As noted within the supplemental, the average daily trips, ADTs, would not exceed outright permitted uses such as a child daycare. The subject property is located within an established residential neighborhood and adjacent to Alvina Street Southeast, a local street which is designated as a local street. Because the proposed use will occupy and not alter the appearance of existing residents, it will operate during weekday business hours. Staff do not anticipate the impact on the development and livability of the surrounding property. As required, notice was provided to the property's neighborhood association, South Gateway Neighborhood Association. At this time, no comment has been received from the neighborhood association, and the site is not located within the homeowners association either. Prior to the staff report being completed, no comment was received. However, following the issue of the noticing of the staff report, an additional 32 comments were received. The comments specifically expressed concerns about noise, traffic, availability of on-street parking, and recorded covenants, conditions, restrictions of the property, which are addressed within the supplemental staff report. There are also noted impacts to the property values and comments about receiving additive comment that was also addressed within the staff supplement. To add further regarding comments about the proposed use, exacerbating existing traffic congestion along Alvina and on-street parking causing unsafe road conditions. The comments have been sent to the city traffic engineer, which will evaluate if no parking striping is warranted along portions of Alvina. Through the Safe Streets program, the residents of the neighborhood can also submit a complaint about the road condition, and the traffic engineer would evaluate whether further street improvements are required. Staff recommends that hearings officer approves. Staff recommends that the hearings officer approves the conditional use permit in the Class 3 site plan review, subject to the conditions of subject to the recommended conditions of approval. That concludes that presentation.
No questions? Now is the opportunity for the applicant to testify. I will certainly support the application.
Hello, my name is Natalie Rakoff, and I'm the skater of the proposed conditional use permit. The hardest part is on camera. I'm sorry. Thank you all for coming. I come to you in peace. It means a lot to me that you're here because that only one thing you care about the neighborhood. Unless you have to work. Sorry, guys. But thank you for being here. I don't think I ever gathered this many people other than my friends and family. So I appreciate everyone's feedback through phone calls and emails. Again, you took the time to do it because it's important to you. Some of you even did a few submissions from the same household. Some of you did it from like 100, more than 1,000 feet away, and then 1.5 miles away from our neighborhood. Flint Ridge Drive, I mean, that's cool, you're totally allowed to do that. I've scanned through several of them, and I see that majority of you have voiced your complaints about increased noise and traffic over the last few months in the area, and that is legit. I understand you all met my family and their friends one way or another. Because the center is not operating yet, it's not officially open. We have been using the house for our personal use. And we have a big family, our children are grown, and we have hosted numerous parties in the last 2 months in the house. And that is what the noise is. Other than that, the house is vacant. So that I understand that's where the noise came from. My daughter had her birthday party there, my son had his party there, there'd been a graduation party. We have also opened up the house to a church group for their Bible studies. They don't meet regularly, meet once a week, not every week, but you might have seen that. I don't think they cause any issue. Those ladies are amazing. They're not loud at all. But up to this moment, the center is not functioning yet. We only have one registered person, and this being a social center, there's nobody to socialize with. So, being part during the parties, I understand there may be my friends have my kids' friends were inconsiderate with their parking, extra noise, loudness, loud music, constant barking dogs, garage sales and extra traffic that come with it. We're going to have a huge neighborhood sale fourth weekend in June. That's going to be, those are the things that we in neighborhoods constantly deal with. And it's part of any neighborhood. Everyone is allowed to have celebrations, events, and it is what it is. So I understand all complaints submitted for today's meeting about the noise and the increased traffic was about our personal use of the house and had nothing to do with the proposed center. I deeply apologize for the noise that those parties and those events created in the neighborhood. We are a big, loud family. I mean, it is what it is. We bought the house in 2007 and we lived there. Out of the last 18 years, we lived more than half. We've met with half of you. Some of you have been there since 1987. 30 years, 25 years. I met half of you. We raised a good chunk of our kids there, and then when they started getting older, the house shrank than us. So we have opted to move out to the county because they started driving. And again, for the sake of everyone, we moved about 7 miles away from the house. But we're coming back. I'm skipping. I created notes, but this is so here. I'm just all over the place. Let me kind of stay with the transcript so I don't forget anything. So as far as the center is concerned, it's not an adult foster home that made me email. As I'm reading the emails, I feel like it's being confused with a foster home or a care home. It is not. This is the only second center in Salem like that. So it's very new to everyone, and everyone is mistaking it for something that it's not. So this is no different than gathering with your friends for a game night, or having a Bible study group or fellowship group at your house. Because we're only second center in Salem altogether, this is all new to our town, and it would have been to me. I stand with you with the concerns. We answered the call from State of Oregon, who is looking to open up more centers like that in our communities as the need is very high. Because people playing board games, watching TV, and just socializing don't need a lot of space, the state come out to our house and has concluded that they can serve up to 18 people at one time. So this is people coming in. I'm thinking for extra comfort, I would do less. Even having parties at our house, 18 is too much for my comfort zone. I'm thinking 10 to 12 comfortably, but because the state gave me their calculations for 18, that's what I put on the, here is the confirmation for the 18. They said 60 square feet per person. And my house can accommodate more, but they said, okay, 18 is good, and I said plenty. Anyways, because people, okay, so I'm thinking for extra comfort, I wanna do 10 to 12, but 18 is because of, to match the state. People who are eligible for this program don't drive. Everyone will be dropped off at the center, and no one gets their own personal taxi. Because it's a state-funded program, they have one car picking up from Windsor, north, southwest. So that's 4 cars dropping off. They don't come at the same time. So sometime at the beginning when we decide what's the best time for everyone, it could be 10 for 5 hours, 11 for 5 hours, could be 1 to 6. But sometime during the day when they want to get together, they're being picked up by 4 different locations or groups, and they're brought to the center. That's what I mean. There's no extra traffic. I mean, we have our Amazon deliveries, we have our Instacart deliveries, we have our pizza deliveries. We probably, I know I do, I have more than 4 cars, 5 cars coming to my house on a daily basis. And that's just kind of new normal after COVID. People rely on deliveries a lot. Uber, we call Uber. So that is where I want to like assure you there's no extra traffic. And my ratios is 1 to 6. Even if I maxed out at 18, which I won't, I only need 3 attendants at the center playing games with them, you know, bringing them coffee or whatever. And that's 3 cars, 4 if we're having a visitor, which the driveway totally allows for it. Once the center is open, it won't be used for personal use. I would not allow people in there with, you know, like other people's photographs and personal files and their things. They might bring their favorite book that they're gonna be reading. It's like having a book club. So there won't be any personal use. And I think you guys would appreciate that now having seen what it can be, right? So once the center is open, there won't be any personal use of the house. I'm gonna allow anyone in the house with other people's stuff. It sounds like our neighborhood will appreciate that scenario a lot more than our personal use. That's what we've been having. If we were to move in today and use it for our personal residents, but unfortunately it's not an option for us yet, we would bring 7 cars with us. I mean, that's a fact. I'm thinking, right? Our Congresswoman Andrea Salinas' office has sent her team member, Brandon Johnson, who works for U.S. House of Representatives, to congratulate us and show their full support to our center, as they're working on having more of those very needed centers to open up in our communities to assist most neglected, vulnerable citizens in our areas who are confined to 4 walls and don't talk to another adult for weeks, and seeing a mailman is their most excitement for the day. Brandon couldn't be here today, but expressed full support and standing firmly behind this initiative. I'm meeting up with Brandon on Monday, and he's anxiously waiting for us to move forward with this. So we bought our house in 2007. For the last 17 to 18 years, we owned it, lived there for more than half. We love the area, we love the neighborhood. We did need to move out because of the kids and they were starting to drive. So it has the best school in town. And we recently adopted a little girl, she's 4 now. And so when school age comes, when she's ready to go for the 1st grade, guess where she'll go? She'll go to Sumter. We're gonna be moving back, and that's where my husband and I are planning to retire. In a few years, our older kids are gonna be out of the house, and we're just gonna have our little Maya, and this is where we're coming back. This is all very temporary for us. We rented it out for the last few years. I know, I'm so sorry, it broke my heart driving by with taking apart cars and car parts in the front yard and in the backyard. And with the COVID moratorium they had, landlords couldn't do nothing. We couldn't, we drove by and it just broke our hearts what it looked like. Some of you in the back of us expressed how nosy, not nosy, probably nosy too, noisy the kids were, how much trouble they had. The lawn was dead, the grass was overgrown more than human height, and we as landlords, our hands were tied. We couldn't even ask them to move out. That was the COVID, we struggled. And this is the house that we want to live in, so it was very important for us that it was taken care of. As soon as we could, we had asked them to move out, but we're not ready to move in just yet. So we don't want to put another renter in there. We'd love to afford it just to sit vacant, but that's never a good thing for any neighborhood to have a vacant house as you're in squatters. So we answered a call with the state of Oregon looking for people to open up those social centers. What it is they have a program where they qualify people who they don't drive, who are after surgeries, who are recovering, who are just elders. And there's only one center like that and it's full, like there's a wait list. So there, we answered the call and we have sent in our paperwork. We got approved. I have a state license from them. We can do 5 people, like we don't have to ask anyone. We can have 5 people come up, they come. The plan is once we open, they will come, we will watch a movie together, we will have a discussion, we will talk about current events, we will have a book club, we will do things together, and they don't cause noise. They barely move, they would. The one guy that we have right now registered, he's 86. He walks with the little walker, he's not noisy, he's very polite, he came out with his son to see, he's very pleasant. He won't be any issues, he won't even go out for walks. And those are the people, because he's left home alone, waiting for his son to come from work. And when his son comes at 8 or 9, he's in bed. So his health and his mental health has started declining, and that's where the caseworkers and the DHS starting ringing the bell, like, what's happening with these people? We need to put them somewhere, they need to socialize, because that's how we were created. So we moved out our tenants, we started a remodel. Everything inside we updated, fixed what was broken, repainted the house, put in a brand new lawn, have weekly service. This house looks as nice as it ever did. And I would think you guys would appreciate that, because it was a dumpster before, honestly. And anytime you put a renter in there, that's what happens to it, because our previous tenants, they saved on water. They completely turned off the sprinkler system because they didn't want their water bill being high, and that's a very common thing. So, with this said, we don't plan on having this house for a very long time. We will be moving back in within a few years as our older kids move out and our youngest daughter approaches the school age and is ready to start the first grade. In the meantime, we believe opening up our doors for our elder community to use this place as a civil, well-organized, clean, well-taken care of house with weekly landscaping service, nice lawn, without any noise or extra traffic in any commotion should be an honor for this neighborhood. And much better scenario than placing another tenants in the house and going through everything again. Or even worse, in my opinion, is my family moving back with my older kids. Quietness, cleanliness, and parking control is something I can guarantee you guys for this house. I would love to answer any questions, as this is something very new to all of you, and I'm sure there's a lot of confusion with adult foster homes. Nobody's gonna sleep there. they can in for no more than 5 hours, it's their max that the program will allow them to be there. So they get dropped off, they walk into the house, they sit on the couch, they talk with others, they watch TV, they play board games, they eat a meal, snacks, we bring them coffee, they talk, they socialize, and then we walk them out to their little taxis in groups. 1, 2, 3, 4 cars, they're gone. Nobody's there on the weekends, no parties. I hope this gets approved because it would actually be a best scenario for the 3 options we have for everyone. Thank you for your attention, and if you guys have any questions.
Ms. Rebel, I take that. Couple
Yes.
questions.
Yes,
You indicated that you thought 10 to 12 clients would be.
that's what I'm thinking, yes. The state told me 18, the house would,
The state told you you had to have 18?
I don't have to be, I can have up to 18.
Okay, but you would prefer to have 10 to 12.
Yes, I would wanna start lower and grow into it, and I would stop at any point where outside of my comfort zone. For that,
How many clients you need to have that service to be viable financially? You always have to have 3 attendants, or is it just 1 per 6 clients each year?
no, this is a state program, they don't pay like that. For this facility, not facility, for this center to kind of pay for itself is 12 to 14. To be able to be worth it there. My other option would be, is because 5 is allowed without any permit, and the state offered this to me, they said, if they give me issues, we're gonna do morning session for 5 and then afternoon session for 5, but that just doubles everything, and it's not as cost effective because, we pay longer hours for attendance and stuff like that. And again, it would be not 4 cars, but 8 cars, not the preferable, but it's an option, and then you kind of break even.
Do you have the ability to stagger the client's times, or is that set more by the client's needs?
I can, everything's negotiable between us and the clients, as long as my ratios are within limits. I can't really, it has to be more of a group because of the meal, the lunch. It's either has to be, lunch or dinner. So there's a lot more little things like that I have to keep in mind. But I could have 5 and 5, so a total of 10, which I will survive, but it would not be the best scenario, so I really hope.
And what are the various means that clients would arrive? You indicated taxis, personal vehicles.
They don't drive. No, they don't drive their personal vehicles.
Right, but personal vehicles like the son that was driving his parent.
So far, everyone that I've talked to, again, I only have 1 committed, would opt in to do a taxi because their sons and their daughters are at work or doing their own things. They're kind of in this position.
In terms of services, would you be using the backyard of the house?
In summertime, yes, I was planning on putting patio furniture, they don't necessarily care, there's no gardening, to do that, although I have a little garden in there now. But they would probably sit out on the deck if they choose to. If it's not too hot or too cold, in Oregon, it's only a few days.
Thank you.
Any other question?
No
Oh, okay,
questions.
yeah, sorry.
Is there a representative from a neighborhood organization who wishes to testify?
I have it is the best state single family.
This would only be official testimony from the official neighborhood or neighborhood association at this time. We'll get to that in a moment.
I actually called the person that was on the list as our neighborhood association. And he is not our neighborhood association person anymore. He finally got a hold of me, called me back and said, I have nothing to do with this. This is not my job anymore, so the person that you guys have listed on that whole page has nothing to do with our neighborhood association at this time.
Okay, thanks. And now I'm going to open up the testimony to everyone else. I would like to highlight one thing, and that's section 2400.005 sub D sub 3 of the Salem Revised Code. And it says the proposed use will be reasonably compatible with and have minimal impact on the livability or appropriate development of the surrounding property. So as a hearings officer, the first thing I have to do is to determine what is that standard? What is the livability of your neighborhood? What's it like? When it's bad, what is it like? That's going to allow me to apply that criteria to this application. Now, there are other criteria, but this is the one that I believe is probably the most important, at least to me, in terms of when I listen to your comments. So I'll ask staff now to begin reading from the list of signups.
Our first commenter is Dan Fielder.
Fiedler, I built my house brand new in 1986. It's a beautiful neighborhood I live in. And the house we're talking about around the corner, the family lived there. It's kind of always been a problem for parking. I would like to ask you, this gentleman here, when you have your pictures pulled up, can you pull up the third picture from me?
Everybody hear Mr. Cooper?
Those actually. I'd like to point out the house that they're talking about doing. Oh, well, I do want to tell you, I am sympathetic. There might not be anything to
Mr. Peter,
They're bad.
if you're not speaking to the microphone, we can't get you on.
I was trying
I know.
to, okay. So anyway, on this picture up here, where Paul's house is at, if you can see the house directly across the street, it's got a big backyard with no fence. If you look at their driveway and right next to it there, that's a retaining wall, because that house sets up and that retaining wall is about this high. So when you're coming around the corner in this direction, the retaining wall is blocking your view around that corner. Every once in a while, there's cars parked where that one car is out there. There's a gardener that parks there with his trailer. When his trailer is there next to that hedge, that's right where the car's at, that hedge is way high. So it's a blind corner, completely blind. And I don't know how many times when there's been cars parked on the other side of the street where she's wanting to have cars parked unloading and loading her clientele. That makes it barely one lane street, and the people coming down the hill, it's a real steep hill, coming faster than they should. You're coming into the neighborhood, going uphill, it's a head-on collision, you cannot pass. A fire truck, if they had cars parked all the way up and down that street right there, and you come around that corner there, the fire truck can't get through. So I don't think it's gonna be safe at all to have cars parked on the street. And they've been coming like every Thursday, I believe, for a few weeks now. And they take up that whole street, clear down around the corner, not just right there in front of the house. So if the house next to them wanted to have a birthday party or something, and people come over, their driveway's in, because this place is taking up all the parking. They have for years. When the family was living there, when the renters were living there, and now with this adult daycare thing going on, you're gonna have transport cars bringing in a group, this and that. She's talking about the employees parking in the driveway, that means the transport group is got to park in the street with maybe wheelchair lifts and stuff like that. And on a blind corner, it's just, it's not safe at all. I don't know. A lot of other people want to speak, but, well, I don't know about the CCNRs, what's the deal on that? You know, a single family dwelling only, everybody in the neighborhood signed it years ago. A lot of them have moved away, including our representative. But, I would like to get an extension on this meeting so that we can reinitiate our CCNRs with a new committee. And if have to, hire an attorney to fight this. That's all I have to say.
The next I have Gloria, or Keith, sorry.
Evening. I just wanna say, I agree with what he says. I don't need to go up there and take extra time. I just wanna back him with what he says.
Next I have Nancy Humphrey.
My name is Nancy Humphrey. I live on Norma Avenue, just around the corner. In Albina. The city of Salem gave a license for some sort of a halfway house at the corner of Albina and Sunnyside. I don't know what happened, but that license was revoked. Now it has become something that we believe is a crack house. There are cars that come and go at all hours. The blinds have not been open for months. The yard has gone to hell in a handbasket. Shootings have occurred. No one is ever seen. The house across the street from that house has been forsaken, probably after the first shooting. Owners of once well-kept yard have left it to weeds and ruins. It's for sale, but who will buy and at what discounted price? Who will buy in our finely kept neighborhood when informed of the property now under discussion? And at what discounted price? Our once proud and beautiful neighborhood is in dire straits. We ask that you help us to resolve this in a manner that will benefit all of us instead of one. Thank you.
And I have Paul Andrews next. And Roger Miller.
My name is Roger Miller, and I live at 858 Alpena Street. I've lived there for 22 years. See if this picture is displayed. Now, this is what Dan was talking about, and I took the picture with my camera. I think maybe this one that shows there, that's kind of washed out. But you can see, this is coming up Albina from Sunnyside. And the house 870 Albina Avenue, there's the garage. The arrow pointing to it, you see the retaining wall and the shrubs. And you proceed up the street further if your view is still blocked. So this is that ways. And what Dan was talking about is cars parked around the corner, you will see it, so you're right on them. And anybody that drives a car, and you're driving around the corner, now, this isn't just around the corner or curve, this is going uphill too. You pull your car towards the curve where you're turning. And when you get around and all of a sudden you see that there's a vehicle there and you're startled, you have to immediately pull the steering wheel and get more in the center of the street. And I know this personally because when I first moved into Alvena, there was a family no longer there. They had a teenage son that had a pickup truck with the four-wheel drive, and he would park it on that corner, and I had so many frightening moments of coming upon that vehicle. And I was so thankful when he grew up and moved out of the house. It made it so much more drivable. So, and I think if you look at the public comments that we received today, and there's a lot of them, and these are from neighborhoods that aren't right here, they're up in the streets above. They deal with this street, because this is their throughway street to get out to Sunnyside and out to Kubler and Commercial to go to Costco, Walmart, go to work. So there are many people impacted by this. Some of us here are a little bit closer, so we're worried about the livability of noise as well. But trust me, the safety issue here is foremost on our minds. And also, this hill, a number of years after I moved in, we had a severe snowstorm and ice, and no kids were going to school, nobody was working, and the kids and adults all went to the top of the hill, which is Glendora Avenue, and they would sled down, and they would sled down all the way to public mailboxes, which I will show you in the next picture, which is fairly far down, close to this house. And it's just a very steep road at that point, and people come down that hill and forget to put the brakes on as much as they should, and they're going faster than normal. So you're gonna have people coming up the hill with this issue, and you're gonna have them coming down at a little faster rate. And you've got this curve, and it's pinch, it's like a bottleneck. And all this discussion about people coming, almost like they're coming in increments, 15-minute increments from 10 to 1 p.m. I mean, you know that's not gonna happen. You could have 3 arrive, you could have 5 arrive at the same time. Or are they gonna be in vans with lifts because they're in wheelchairs? I mean, I didn't see any of this information about the kind of clients they're gonna be receiving. Could they have autism? I have a friend who has an autism child who's about 13, 14, he's adult size. But over at their house 2 months ago, in the backyard, sunny day, he was agitated. Because whenever he's around new people, he gets agitated. Imagine going to a facility like this, you're autistic and you don't know anybody there. And he was out in the backyard, full-throated, as loud as he could yell. And then he went in the house, continued to yell, and it sounded like a ghost in the house. Now imagine us living next to that. That's my concern. I don't know, I can't communicate with the owner to find out, is this the kind of clientele you're receiving? That's important information to me. And by the way, I'm a retired nurse, so I have, some knowledge of working in the hospital with patients that have Alzheimer's and issues like that. I know how loud they can be. So anyway, another issue I want to bring up real quickly here is that the signage was very insufficient. I went down the street on Monday, and the sign was bowed forward like it was paying homage to the lawn. I'm serious, like it was praying. You couldn't read it, and it was set back in bushes. And somebody on Monday, I don't know exactly who it wasn't me, it must have called the city, somebody in the city government or whatever, and that sign got moved. And I don't know if it's a new sign, because it doesn't look like the other one. I give this in poor shape. And it is closer to the sidewalk, and I came down the hill yesterday and boom, I saw it. Guess what? That day, 2 people who live up the hill on Glendora or whatever saw it and got, what is going on? They didn't know anything about it. And these people did not get this hearing notice. It only went out to people about 250 feet or some sort of designated distance from this house. And these people are seriously impacted by this as they come down this hill. And they have to deal with this. It's a safety issue for them. And this definitely needs to be extended. So these people who just found out yesterday, when they finally saw the sign, they need to have their input. It affects them. This is how they get out to shop and work and come down the street. So, sorry if you don't mind later.
Running over 5 minutes, but
Am I really? Okay, well, anyway, I mentioned about the health of the page, what kind of patients these are, and, my first impression, let me get to this next picture, I don't know how I get to the. There's just a map, and I wanted to show you the neighborhoods that are behind. Okay, once again, look up here. I got in blue showing, what is that, Jacob Street, you've got Hickory Hill. And these people are gonna come up through Alvina, and Alvina is actually, they didn't have the name Alvina coming off Sunnyside, but Alvina is broken up. It comes up, becomes Norma, it goes all the way up, and then Alvina, this leg of it goes that way. I live on that leg. So these people are gonna be coming down and coming through my street, and then they wanna come down past that house. And then you got all these people on the upper street, Glendora, needing to come down, and those people on the upper part of Norma Avenue needing to come down. And so you got a lot of people, and they're gonna bottleneck in this dangerous curve. And you can see on there, I've got public mailboxes, I've got an arrow, they did make it green. And these residents down there, it's not my mailboxes, have to cross that street and go to those mailboxes. And you got all these extra cars creating hazards for cars coming down, they can get hit. And I did mark out there in green where that kind of that raised wall, retaining wall and hedges. And I made some other comments there. But I think I probably stated most of that. And then also, I didn't understand when these people are gonna be leaving, and this clarified when she spoke. The departures are gonna fall up to 6 p.m. Now that's rush hour. It's the whole thing in the staff report was this is not gonna be business hours, we're not, half the community, most communities not, that's false, then. If you got these people leaving, when a majority of people that are gone, half the people are retired in this community or work from home, and there's even a student that does college classes from home. So you're gonna have all these cars arriving, they aren't gonna come that might come at the same time, plus all the people coming home from work. That was not detailed in the report, that is new news, that should have been in the staff report. This is creating a safety issue. And I think I probably have said enough, but it feels like we're guinea pigs, because it's like, if I heard her right now, I'm very hard of hearing. This is a new thing to happen in Salem, to have an adult daycare center. And so they're gonna trial it out here. And I don't want to be guinea pig to that. This should be on a cul-de-sac. And there's cul-de-sacs in that map you can see there. You're affecting maybe 5 homes. But here on this street, you're affecting 50. Who knows how many more? And that's why you've got so many responses from this. And you're gonna get a whole lot more if this carries on another week, because there's a lot of people impacted. And they're not happy. And they're upset that they didn't get notified about it. And they didn't have that sign to read.
I just want to, I live right across the
you
street.
want to identify yourself, please?
Colleen Olson, I live at 861 Albina Street. I live right across the street from Roger, and we have a neighbor that lives on the corner. She has meals dropped off, Meals on Wheels. She's had the caregivers come, and there have been times where there has been parking where they have had trouble trying to get to her to take her needs on Meals on Wheels. I have actually had to be picked up in medical transport because I am also handicapped. And if the parking is going to increase and the traffic is going to increase in there, and it is a terrible corner. And I totally agree with everything that you stated.
Thank you.
I agree too.
Next I have Karen Swanson. I'm sorry, you do have to be on the recording.
They use that portable mic if they have trouble. There's a cordless mic over there.
Yeah.
Also that might help someone.
If the hearings officer.
It's on that wall, right?
Yes, I'm checking with the hearings officer.
My name is Karen Swanson. I live at 866 Glenmore Avenue Southeast for the last 25 years. My husband is, I'm retired, he's So I'm retired, he still works and will be coming back and forth down that road again. I might also mention to you that the sign, that I moved that sign. And it was the same sign, it was all pushed over and I straightened it back up and moved it down, so actually it was visible, so you could see, because I didn't. Anyway, my concern again is the traffic issue. It is a serious issue and it needs to be addressed, and for that reason, I'm opposed to this.
Our next person is Lou McKenna. And then Gary, would you be opposed to people using our portable mic if they can't come up to the podium?
Sure.
Thank you. My name is Lou McKenna. I live at the top of the hill on Glendora Avenue. And I oppose this permit. I feel like we're part of an experiment. And we are the families of the people that have been painful, because I think the establishment of a program like this, it is an experiment. And I think it's one that we really can't afford to suffer the consequences. In my case, I have a family trust that's dedicated to my young son, who is blind and has autism. He's a smart kid, he's gonna make it, but he's gonna be dependent substantially on the profits from the sale of my house when I die. So this is real stuff, and I don't think we should be the subject of the experiment. Thank you.
And next I have Brian Howe.
My name is Ryan Houck. I live at 879 Alpena. The homeowner has the lovely retaining wall that's been the subject of the last couple of conversations. I have some concerns about this I'd like to express here. The first one's in reference to SRC 240.005D2. It's kind of lists out conditions 1 and conditions 2. It goes back to the 18 adults that may be subject to this. And then the following condition 2 is my main concern. It lists out a 7 to 6 o'clock hour for this zoning, with a maximum of 8 hours in that 11-hour period. As a homeowner, it'd be nice to know, to find that a little better. Once this is approved, if it does get approved, it kind of opens up that, that's what the permit says. That's what we're gonna have to live with if this changes. Additionally, I've noticed that the adult daycare center is capitalized, so I'm assuming there's a legal definition for that somewhere that I'm interested in know, because the Oregon Department of Corrections has recently started referring to what we used to refer to as inmates as adults in custody. So I have further concerns of what adults are being listed in this definition. And as we've learned today, this is part of a state program that they're trying to roll out. And I had some additional disappointment in the state that they didn't feel that this hearing was informed to be at to meet with the neighborhood. I would think as a flagship program that this appears to be, I would think that we would have state representatives here to help address what's going on. We're all expected to show up here at 5:30. You would think that the state employees would also, if they're trying to push this as a needed community goal and need. It's hard to see that it's needed in our community if they don't show up. And then kind of referencing back the concerns of the corner, it is a spiral, it's a radius with a large 5 to 8 feet elevation change, and I've only lived there since about, I think I moved there in 2013. I haven't lived here as much as the other people here have, but I learned very quickly that when I pull into my driveway, I need to back into it, because backing out of my driveway is dangerous, and an additional 18 plus the 3 employee traffic for the 64 ADT. That doesn't seem to, I don't know if that includes their cleaning and whatever other services that will go to maintain this facility in that count. And then the last thing I want to drop back to is in that SCR 400 I referenced earlier. It also doesn't list days of the week. It just lists 7 AM to 6 PM, maximum 8 hours. I don't know if that includes Saturday and Sunday, but that's a little concerning as well.
The applicant said that they will not be working on weekends.
I understand what they stated. I just, you know, if it's zoned and permitted for a use that just lists a certain hour range and it doesn't reference days, if the use changes, I don't know how that affects it either.
Well, the conditional use basically determines the parameters of what happens on that property. If the applicant or somebody else that buys the property wants to change that use in any significant way, they would have to modify that conditional use or get a new conditional use.
Yeah, so I would, the concerns kind of goes back to what's an adult day center.
And I'm not aware of any statutory definition. Staff may know otherwise. But it's a new one on me as well.
Yeah, so my concern is just like, what sort of clients are we dealing with here? Because there's a big difference between the Oregon Department of Corrections definition of an adult and what it appears the property owners, you know, elderly cares. I mean, there's a big difference between those, and they're both adults.
Right, and the record is going to be held open, and I think the applicant knows that she needs to be maybe a little more precise with the type of client that is eligible and the type of client that is not. It might be useful to identify those type of clients that wouldn't be permitted to this, even if they are adults.
Yeah, and then it'd also be nice to know what the state program is that it seems some of this funding may be coming from.
Okay,
That's all I have.
thank you.
Next, I have Curtis Kim.
Hello, my name is Curtis Kim, and since the whole traffic thing has been addressed quite a bit, I do not live on that street. I live directly behind that house. And I do remember your winters and how horrible the garden was. I will commend you on having the landscaping done and all the work done on that house to get that done. The one issue that my wife and I both had is, as soon as that house is empty, it's like they moved out in the middle of the night. All this construction started happening. And I went by and tried to talk to some of the people, and it's like, oh, they didn't want to tell us anything about it. I'm going, well, what's going on? You guys have gotten this house. Is it being remodeled for sale? We looked online several times, nothing was true. That house has been empty for what, 9 months now? Somewhere around 9 months. And then all of a sudden, the sign shows up in your front yard. And like Roger said, we got a letter, because I'm directly behind the house. And I can tell you the noise before was horrendous, out of control. And so my wife and I went by the front of the house. That sign was laying on the yard, and I'm going, what is that? Because I didn't even know that the letter addressed that house. So I thought, oh, you know, I bet you that letter addresses that house. So we went and picked up the sign, shot the QR code, nothing came up. You probably got inundated with, what, 20 letters last night? From people, all the emails? That was because somebody went out there and put that sign out there and it stands up now. And somebody came by in the neighborhood. Thank you. Somebody in the neighborhood came by and we have a neighborhood watch thing. And on an email came up and they said, do you know what this is about? And my wife and I, boom, man, we shot her a thing and said, yeah, you might want to know about it. She had no idea because she lives more than 250 feet from that house. That is less than a football field away, 250 feet. That letter should have been sent to at least 100 people in that neighborhood, up and down every street within at least 2 blocks of that house. You know what, 50 feet? Are you kidding me? That's the distance that letter went. Luckily, I'm right behind that house. You know how many feet I am from that house? 110 feet. Had I been across the street, which was my neighbor, had no idea what was going on. The person next to me on that side had no idea what was going on. I went out and talked to him. Well, it doesn't bother us. That's what they said. We didn't get a letter. Oh, because you're more than 250 feet from the house. That's ridiculous. I don't know if that's your department, or your department, or your department, sir. But somebody needs to get that on the ball. I do commend you on taking the time to clean it up. I commend you on your speech, on what you have in mind and what you want to do. But I will tell you right up front, I worry about these programs starting. If it starts there, what happens next? Do we end up with a drug rehab program in the neighborhood? Do we end up with a felon rehabilitation program in our neighborhood? Once one of those homes, and I'm not just talking about here, once one of those homes is licensed and permitted by the state, it opens up the gateway. It is a gateway to so many other homes becoming more than just an adult care facility. It becomes a lot more. That means anybody that has an empty house or a rental and they don't want to deal with rent. I have 3 rental properties myself. I know what a pain in the butt it can be to be a landlord and what you have to deal with. I am a good landlord. I take care of my property, but if my people don't take care of it, they get charged for landscapers to come in, and it's in my contract. They know where I stand. It also is in my contract. If I have to take them to court, they pay my court fee, they pay my attorney fees. I have an ironclad contract with my renters. I saw the letter that you sent to the county. It was very well written. Obviously, you have a really good attorney that wrote that letter. The one thing I did not agree with when it was the waiver you were asking for was that it was redundant to have this staged. And it's like, no, it's not redundant for us to come in and speak how we feel about this happening. It's important for the whole neighborhood. It's important for you to see how people feel. I commend you for what you want to do, and I don't mean to sound arrogant and jerky about it, but it's just something I don't want in my neighborhood right now. It's a pilot program. I'm a taxpayer like everybody in this room. My tax dollars are going for this. Are these people that are using this program, is it just out of their retirement? Is it just out of their social security? You know what we make on social security, most of you here? Probably make $1,200 a month on social security living on it. You can't afford to move out of your house. If you sold your house, you would have just enough money to get into a smaller place.
Mr. Camp, you want to focus on the approval criteria?
All right, well, I'm focusing on how we feel about this whole program. I realize my time is up, but I do want to tell you that the letter needed to go out to a lot more people. You saw how many emails you got last night on the 11th, because I have a copy of all of them. And that was because that sign was out there, and people that did not get that letter finally saw that sign. And like I said, I do commend you on what you want to do. I just wish that it was a little bit further out in the country and not right in our neighborhood. Thank you for your time.
And Mr. Camp, if you're concerned about the notice requirements being 250 feet, you talk to your city councilman.
Who do we talk to?
Your city councilman.
In that this program, in that here?
It's part of the code that's adopted by the city council.
All right, well, maybe they need to get word out that that's not right. Everybody here agrees on that. Sure. That 250 feet is less than a football field. That's 300. All right, thank you for your time.
And next we have Brendan Fountain.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm Brendan Compton. I live at 555 Norma Avenue Southeast. Through whatever weird quirk of the street, that's the house, you know, directly next to the Alvina Street house. I believe we met,
You left your name, you done it, right? Your license?
I believe so.
What was the date? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Anyway. Everyone's beating the traffic complaints to death, so I'll try to keep it brief. It affects my driveway directly because people tend to, they've been good about not blocking my driveway. They've been good about not blocking my driveway most of the time. There's been people dropping stuff off occasionally that have blocked it for short periods of time. I doubt that you had anything to do with that, but it's just seems like an unintentional consequence of delivery drivers who don't care. So this would affect the livability of my house directly because I'm sure, you know, traffic would increase regardless of whatever your efforts to do to control it. But the main thing I wanted to address is some other people brought up as well. I don't think we've met the notice requirements here with the Salem Revised Code with the sign in the yard, which looked like it was hidden from the street behind a bush for the majority of the notice period. It was moved on Monday by somebody else. In addition, I guess partly agrees with me. I think 18 is a very high number for this house to get approved for. If it is to get approved, it tends to get a little noisy with significantly less people in there, especially since I'm the property directly next door, and I think it would be significantly reduced amount of noise if it was, you know, 8 or 10 people versus 18, which I don't know if you remember having house parties in college, if any of you did, but 18 people is kind of a lot for a 1,800 square foot house, regardless of their age. So that being said, I could ramble on, but the majority of what I'm trying to get at is it's gonna get loud, it's gonna be annoying, and I work from home, so it is going to affect me directly, regardless of the business hours. And I'll see whatever the majority of my time. Thank you.
And last time on my list are Bill and Maya.
I think Roger expressed our concerns about parking and traffic flow quite well, so.
Is there anybody else who has not signed up who wishes to test that?
Add something if I could.
Well, normally we don't do dual orders because everybody wants to add something. We have time. Go ahead.
I'll be just quick.
Yeah, reintroduce yourself to the record.
My name's Ryan Halkett. I live at 879 Alvina across the street. The two things I'd like to add is the community mailbox for the neighborhood, which is like 30 or 40 mailboxes, is about three houses down the street from this location. So it does impact more than the people that are outside of the 250 feet. And then to add on to the thing, I work road construction, so I do work at night and sleep during the day, so it impacts me that way as well.
Ms. Humphrey, you wanted to say another thing? I'm gonna ask you to go to the microphone if you do.
I've got a quarter now, I'll grab this one.
Yeah. I just would like to know who is what ward are we in, and the name of that person. I was thinking they might have been, but in any case, could you tell us the name of the person?
I couldn't do it still. But I'm sure staff can finish that information at some point.
It's Ward 4, Indiana. Ward 4, Indiana.
Oh, let's see on this side.
Word for Deanna Gwynn.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't want this to go on all day.
I'll give him my.
If it can be quick.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up.
And what's your name again?
Either,
Okay.
living on the streets. I had gotten to mention, she had, lady here was up there, she mentioned that sounds like it's a done deal anyway, because no matter what, she can have 5. And then the state told her So you have 5 in the morning, 5 in the afternoon, so she's still gonna have 10 people.
I don't think it works that way.
Is that what you said?
It's an option. It seems like it's so far.
Yeah, see, that's an option. Well, that's just,
That's something I'll look into.
okay, I appreciate that, thank you.
Okay, that's all. We're gonna have the record left open, so if any of you or your neighbors wish to comment during that period of time, you'll be allowed to do so, email or letters into the staff. And we'll discuss the timeframes that need to be. Does staff have any additional comments that they wish to make?
To provide clarification about the daycare use of the 4 or 5 fewer, that'll be a limited maximum of 5 in the course of the time. See, we'll provide further clarification during the.
Now is an opportunity for the applicant to offer some rebuttal. Margaret?
Thank you, and I will just take this time to answer some of the questions that were asked. Well, the first one was about a possibility of drop-offs across the street. Again, we will make sure that the drops-off are done right in the driveway or in front of the driveway. That's an easy fix. It hasn't.
If you have more than one drop off at the same time, which is very likely to have, you're not gonna get two vehicles right in front of the lane.
Yes, at that point, I guess if that were to happen, if the 4 cars arrive at the same time or 2 of them, I would, it just takes one conversation. It's one company that we are asking for a taxi, so it would just take one conversation asking them if somebody's dropping off, please wait, I haven't had that issue yet because I'm not open, but I feel like it's so easy to fix. It's like, it won't be an issue, and I guarantee you it won't be.
So only one taxi company will be providing this
Yes.
drop off service?
Yes. Yeah, so it's easy to speak with them, and again, right now it seems like it, but if something were to change and we switch companies or whatever, it's just be a matter of asking them not to block for everyone's safety, and then safety of, they wanna be safe as well, they're not gonna add to it. It's a curve. We live there, but the street is wider than minimum standards. The street is very wide. In the 8 years that we lived there, 9 years that we lived there, I haven't seen a single accident. On an icy day, I've seen a truck slide down. I was very icy, and just kind of went past us. That was the only thing that I've ever seen. People who live there, I mean, it's not that bad. I'm thinking for new people or when the landscapers come out, that's yeah, they come out with the big trailers, they're usually there on Fridays, that stuff. They kind of block the view. But again, we all have, on our street, there's like 3 or 4 or 5 different landscape companies that come out. Just have to be extra careful, like anywhere, center or no center. If I were to live there, I mean, I'd still be careful driving there. So my other thing came up on many questions is rezoning. We're not rezoning anything. The zoning is not changing. So there's not I feel like there's a big misunderstanding as far as like paving a path for other businesses in the neighborhood or we're not changing the zone. Anybody who, if you guys, one of you decides to open up a child daycare, you're gonna have to go through the same thing and have your neighbors come out and decide whether, it's appropriate or not. It's not like it's a given. The zone is not changing, it's not changing to commercial or anything. So if anything, we have to go through this process and then it's decided whether allowed or not. So it's not opening up a path for anybody who wants to open up commercial business in the neighborhood can easily do that, no. safety. So we will not be open in snowstorms, like many have said that kids are sliding down. Obviously, we're serving senior citizens community. I'm not licensed for intellectual disability, so that came up. So I'm not licensed, my license is for elderly, aging people and people with disability due to age. That is my license. So it's only elders. There's not, I'm not licensed for intellectual disabilities. I guess that kind of answers that. Sign, I placed the sign myself, I submitted the picture to the city, they see, it was not hidden, it was not bent forward, I even asked my landscapers, please don't remove the sign, make sure it's there, it was very visible. Coming up from Albina, not so much just because there's nowhere to put it where you could see from side to side, it's just how the house sits. But it was not hidden, I don't agree with that, I don't live in the house, maybe somebody played with it. I have I can't say, but from what I've seen, the house in the city has a picture of where the sign was, straight up for, not hidden. Quiet hours in the neighborhood after 10 p.m. Obviously, no one will be there. And so someone mentioned that it might go up to 6 hours in its rush hour. We don't have our hours set yet. It could be any hour, any 5-hour block during the day. It could be 1 day, it could be 2 days a week. Maybe in a year or two, it'd be 5 days a week, I don't know. I can't answer that, we will slowly see what the demand, how this works and what the demand is for our area. Traffic will decrease from current situation because the house is sitting vacant. But of course, the traffic will increase if anybody moves in there. Us, tenant, it is what it is. Anytime you have a new family or a new tenant in the house, anytime the house is occupied, the traffic will increase. By how much? Probably not much to impact the neighborhood the way it's presented to be. Only because they don't drive, they have taxis, and they wanna, from before, I was thinking, there could be a family member dropping them off if they were late for a taxi. So it's not like it will only be 4 cars, period. The 5th one would not be allowed to stop by my house. No, what I'm talking about in general, as far as what the plan is right now. Can something change? Yes. Could it be 2 cars? Possibly. Could it be 5? Also possible. So for me to tell you exactly how many cars will be coming in the neighborhood, I can't, but I can tell you it's not gonna be a lot. It's not gonna impact your community or our community the way some of you are thinking it might. It will not be loud, it will not be annoying. Like I said, those people at that age, they're not loud, and then they are within the house. Like I said, they're reading, they're watching movies, they're doing their own thing. It's a social model of the center. As a real estate agent, which I am, I guarantee you the house will not be impacted value-wise. Because this is such a low-key thing, is like having a daycare house. It's like having a daily clubhouse, book club meetings. It's like having, like I mentioned before, a board game. Does that affect the house value? No. Do you believe me? No. But what I'm asking at this point, hearing to what you had to say, and I relate with every single one of you. I do relate, I do want to prove that most of what you said will not be the case. If you approve me a conditional use for 2 years, just 2 years, I might not even need that much, but I want to make sure maybe just for 2 years to show you that it's no impact, that it's no negative impact, that it's a better situation than renting the house for 2 years, which is nothing, 24 months. And if that's not what I promised you. It expires, no, will not renew it in this location, I'll go commercial. But give me 2 years to prove it to you that your house values will not go down. That it won't be annoying or loud, it will not impact your neighborhood. I guarantee you, quiet, cleanliness. I couldn't guarantee that, for my tenants. I would love to see your, rental agreement, or a copy of it. It's something that I would like to have, but, temporarily, for 2 years, let me prove myself to you. If I fail, we're done. You know, we're moving in ourselves, we're raising our kids, and we'll have our center elsewhere, but for just 2 years.
Prove yourself, it's 5 people today.
Let's, no comments from the audience.
Thank you.
Let me ask a few more questions. You said, for the most part, your clients will come by taxi.
For the most part, yes.
Not a single taxi company, but a Salem taxi.
They pick them up in groups.
Right. I guess the point is, if it was one taxi service, then they could coordinate and control when people are being dropped off and picked up. If you have multiple taxis, then they come whenever they've scheduled the appointment with you. It's the latter situation with an occasional variation, right? Okay.
Yes.
Your applications being judged on the maximum magnitude that you specify. In other words, from 6 to 7 during the day, up to 18 clients. Even though you're telling me, well, you're starting slow and you're going to build. But we have to judge your application on the worst case scenario.
Yes.
And that's of course what the neighborhood is looking at, a worst case scenario.
Yes, for
I'll
sure.
make that clear.
Yes, and I don't wanna tie up my hands, you know, by promising you it's gonna be, you know, 5 or 10. And then having to come back here and say, hey, can I have one more? So, I mean, if no more than 18, but honestly, I'd be totally cool with 14 for 2 years. That's what, it's the size of my table.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Now let's discuss how long the record should be held open. I'll throw this out a week. That will allow anybody here or your neighbors to submit written material into the record in favor of or against. Another week for any sort of exchange of rebuttal by those individuals. And then a final rebuttal by the applicant. Is that pretty much what staff has done in the past?
Yes, that would be standard for us.
Is that generally agreeable with everybody? You realize, I know that somebody talked about getting an attorney, that my decision, whatever it is, can be appealed to the planning commission anew. And so you've got a lot of time, especially if the record is held open an additional 3 weeks. And I'll start my decision and I almost always get my decision out within 10 days. So I want you to know that. So if there's no objections, we'll hold the record open 7 days from today for new information. Another 7 days after that. It has to be into the city by 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock.
It's 5 p.m. I'll go over the days and time of mine if you'd like.
Why don't you?
Sure. So we will accept, everything I'm about to say, I'll send in an email to everyone who has sent us email so far, or if we haven't on record. But we will accept any new testimony from any party until June 19th, so it's a week from today at 5 p.m. You'll send that to Jacob, like you've been sending your comments so far. And then until June 26th, or on the day after June 19th, we'll send out a summary of all the comments we've received via email to everyone. On June 26th is the deadline for rebuttal, so at that point, or during that week, you can only respond to things that have been presented. You cannot submit anything new, you can only respond to things. But anyone can do that, and that will end at 5 p.m. on June 26th. And then, after that, we'll send a summary of all the, rebuttal we've received. And, until, July 3rd, only the applicant can provide final rebuttal. So we'll provide 1 week for that, and then at 5 P.M. on the 3rd, we'll send everything to the hearings officer. We'll also send you each of the memos as we present them each week, but, and he'll start to make his decision. So we'll have, until June 19th, June 19th at 5 P.M. for anything, June 26th at 5 P.M. for rebuttal, and then only the applicant gets until July 3rd, for final rebuttal.
Questions?
Yes, I have a question. The person that we would have to contact about any information that you're saying that we have to take it to, would they be available, I mean, within that week to get a hold of them? Sometimes it's hard to get hold of some officials within a week or 2 weeks.
So appeals will only happen after the decision is issued, because you can't appeal a decision that hasn't been made yet. So after, Gary will begin drafting his decision on July 3rd. And, he says that hopefully that'll take 10 days. So theoretically by July 13th, we will have sent out the decision. And from the day that we send it, anyone who's responded via email will get it via email the day it gets mailed. You'll have 15 days from that day to contact our office and submit an appeal if you'd like to appeal the decision. So you'll have at least 45 days from today to prepare for that if you'd like to. But you just need to have submitted the form on time for it to be submitted, and then we'll arrange an appeal hearing with the planning commission.
So please don't appeal my decision before it's issued. It upsets me.
I just know how hard it is to get a hold of people.
Okay, if there's no further business for the hearings official, we're adjourned. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.